Hi, I'm Rehan. I'm a 25-year-old lawyer and I want to reverse engineer my vision of a fulfilling life. And so I thought I would have conversations with people having different experiences than mine and hopefully learn a thing or two.
Today's guest is Jahan. She's a personal coach and she's here to speak about her experience.
Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome to Reverse Engineer. Jahan, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having
So
me.
Jahan is a life coach and she produces and posts a lot of content about her experiences and how she got into life coaching, and it's benefiting a lot of people. I've seen her content, I'm a big fan, and I wanted to bring her on to speak about her experiences completely and probably learn a thing or two. So thank you, Jahan.
Thank you for having
So,
me.
what is life coaching in your opinion?
In my opinion, life coaching, and I specifically do personal development life coaching. So it's just about how to make your life better in every way. So whether that is self-confidence, whether that is learning to set boundaries, work on certain skills that you want to develop, get somewhere in your career. It's a very future focused type of work where we really try to achieve and set certain goals personally, which then flow out into every other aspect of your life. So I think to make better decisions, how do you stop overthinking? How do you control your thoughts and your emotions? So it goes into all of that as well. And it's a lot of mindset work is what I work with mainly. So seeing different perspectives, looking at the bigger picture. How do you, from where you are today, how do you reach that point B that you are striving to go to?
So do your clients come to you with an end goal and then you'll build the bridge to reach that end goal?
Pretty much. We create that end goal together and then we work towards it. And it depends for every person, it's different, the end goal as well, so how do we get
But
there?
if a client comes to you and says that he's just feeling X amount of way, then you'll help him ideate as to why he's feeling X amount of way, and then you help him reach that. Is that what you're saying?
100%. So if a client at work is feeling, a very unable to do the work or not confident enough, right? It goes back to, are they feeling insecure about something? What is their thought process behind why they think they can't do it, right? And it's really a lot of motivation and confidence boosting, because once you have that, you can be disciplined and unstoppable in what you're trying to achieve. So we kind of train the brain to have that self-belief. And once you have that, we then can conquer each and every goal.
So what is the primary difference between that and therapy? Because therapy is something I've done, and that also is a reshaping of your inner thoughts and sort of healing your inner child in a sense. Is there a lot of similarities between the two, and what are the differences as well?
So I think I've done a lot of therapy as well, and it's helped me a lot with understanding the whys of what's going on in my brain, actually the psychological reasons behind it, CBT and different therapies that help you rewire parts of your brain as well. And I think and you look a lot into the past during therapy, and we do touch on, okay, this was my experience in the past, but it always comes with, I've learned from it, this is what it is, and now how do I move forward in life? And I think the actual implementation of that, therapy also tells you what you need to do or how you need to move forward, but are you going to implement it? That is where I would come in and make sure that someone does.
So it's like one is more past focused and one is more future forward. Is that what it is?
A little bit. And I do have clients where I work with their therapists as well, where then, whatever they are told, we kind of discuss and then we create a plan moving forward, and then I make sure that plan is implemented. So it depends. But someone who comes in just for life coaching and isn't in therapy will have a different story as well, so it does touch on a lot of similar topics, but it's very different, because I can also share my opinions, I can share my experiences, I can find a perspective and share it with them and see if they vibe with that perspective or not. So I think that there's a lot more autonomy for me to share in
because
life
therapists
coaching.
aren't allowed to give their opinion. Technically.
Yeah, technically. Not as much, no. Yeah.
And I've had actually a bad experience where when I was a kid, when a therapist was sharing their opinions, and then it's something that can easily be taken advantage of, because you're in a vulnerable state and you're seeking an opinion. You actually want sort of direction and guidance, which therapy doesn't do. It helps you find the direction yourself.
For sure.
But if a therapist then starts giving you their opinion on things, you can take that as gospel, and that may affect you negatively completely. So there's a lot of power that goes into being a life coach if you all are driving opinions, right? But
100%.
what's the fine line between you projecting your values on a situation and your opinion versus trying to find a blend of what that guy or the girl actually wants when they come to you? Like, do you
Yeah.
find that challenge?
Yeah, so the way I do it at least is before my sessions, I have a call and I have a first session with each and every one of my clients where I get to know them, I can understand them more, they trust me, and they know what they're expecting and working towards. And I think, so I'll come to the projection stuff later, but the way I draw that line is that it's a very you take what you want from it situation. If you don't agree with something, you can say you don't agree. It's a very open conversation, it's an open discussion. And we just always end the call with, I know what to do next, or I'm feeling better, or I'm feeling lighter, because sometimes someone just needs someone to talk to about something. It doesn't
Yeah.
even, we don't even have to find solutions all the time. That's not the goal of this. It's just how do you feel better each time. So I think that's one part of it. And then when you said projecting my values, again, with that trust aspect, I think my clients do trust my values already, since they've already gotten to know me without any commitment before we start properly. And then the second part is that I share things that I've experienced. I share things that I've heard about or know about or been a part of to a certain extent. And, I think when you live with shared experiences, you can relate a lot more. And then someone else can maybe just find that perspective they're looking for in what you share.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily saying that also everything I'm sharing is something they should connect with and they should change their perspective about. They can come back and say, but you did this and that was the situation. That's fine, right?
Yeah.
But it's a conversation. And I think only if you converse do you ever come to an end point,
Yeah,
So,
completely. And it helps in sort of reaching that goal. It's also not being alone in that situation. I know fully what you mean, like
Yeah.
walking through that journey. But do you find that there is a stigma associated with being a life coach in India today? Like people look at the profession and wonder, like, what does that entail? Like same
Yeah.
with therapy, but I guess therapy has become a little more mainstream, more than life
100%.
coaching
Yeah,
still.
100%. And therapy is very much needed in our society as well. And I think a lot of people, who come for life coaching, I really say that, you actually should be in therapy as well, because there's a lot of things that I don't cross that boundary on. And the stigma with life coaching, I think it's just new. Like no one really knows what it is and
Yeah.
what it's about. And I think the beauty of it is also that you can create your practice in whatever way you want to. So the way I've created mine is going to be very different from another life coach.
Yeah.
So you just have to see who you connect with and whether you think they can help you. Like that's how with therapy as well.
Yeah.
Like if you connect with the person you think they can help you, that's great.
But what are the experiences that you think that you are sharing in, like you were speaking about when they're shared experiences for them to learn of something? Everyone who I know that is a life coach
Yeah.
has gone through something which has taught them a lot about themselves and changed their personalities, which they then want to give back to others.
Yeah.
What was
For
your
sure.
experience that you went through?
So I think I've been through things in my childhood as well, and then the thing that really did it for me was when I got a heart procedure and I ended up getting symptoms that I had to live with now for the rest of my life. There were complications, and now I have for just different arrhythmias, AV blocks, and I get the symptoms very often. And what the first thing I realized about anything with that was I look completely normal, right? You would never know I have any heart
None at
issue,
all.
right? So the first thing you know is that when you look at someone, you have no idea what they're actually experiencing. And I think a lot of the time we pass judgment or create some sort of image about someone in our minds, which is just absolutely the false thing. So I think that was the first lesson I learned about this. And through my healing journey or accepting my new normal, right? It wasn't I don't even use the word life changing. I use the word life altering experience, because my life is still very much the same in many ways, but the way I think has altered, the way I go about life has altered, the way I make decisions, look at situations, all of that has changed a lot. So it was altering the way I thought more so. And through my healing, of accepting this part of my life now, I think I first had to believe deep down that I was okay. I think that was the main thing, and I will be okay, and this sucks, but it's okay,
Yeah.
And And on top of that, there was a lot of work on my mindset. So literally things that you wouldn't even think are related to health, right? But your boundaries, who you spend time with, your energy, where are you giving it, how much of your past can you forgive yourself for and accept that I'm a different person today, how much can you like look forward and not have expectations of a future and just try and live in the moment. I think all of that helped me a lot in accepting my new normal. I don't know how they relate, but I realize they do. Sorry.
I've also figured that from something that you said, something every human struggles with is they always look at the glass half empty.
Yeah.
Like problems always are bigger than they seem, and achievements or the stuff that has actually worked in your favor are often not given enough credence. Which is why from a mindset approach, people are always a lot more negative than they are positive.
Yeah.
And as a life coach, I'm sure you've seen that firsthand, right?
Yeah.
Where people's problems are always bigger than they seem.
Yeah.
But to that individual, it feels like he's holding a rock under him and it's like crushing him completely. Whereas then you have to work through that. Why do you think the mind always goes into the negative rather than the positive? And I'm sure with the arrhythmia you're speaking about, the first question anyone would have had is why me? Now tomorrow if I failed something, the first question I had was why me?
For sure.
Like, and I've had so many instances where I've like put myself down for being in that specific situation or failing or not being successful or being sick or tired or hurt or any of those things.
Why me? Life is so unfair.
Yeah, life is
I have
so
regrets.
unfair.
But in reality, if you focus on all of that, you're never going to see the other side of it, So I think what I did was I just stopped talking to myself in that way. I used to look at myself in the mirror for around 6 months every morning and say, you're safe, like I love you, Jahan, your heart is fine, your life is going to be okay, you'll be good, because I would sleep with symptoms, wake up with symptoms. I didn't know what was going on in the beginning, but the more I controlled it and made my body feel safe within itself, that okay, bad things or things will happen, but my body is still safe and I have control over that safety, right? So you have to train it to do that. And I think that's what I was able to do for myself.
Where did you get the guidance to do that for yourself? Is that something you just tried the various things and then you stumbled upon this working for you?
Yeah,
because I guess when things are like for what happened to you is not in your control.
Yeah.
If you fail and it's in your control, of course you can feel bad because you may think it's not good enough. But what happened for you was completely...
I tried.
It was devoid of control. So then when there's this element of luck there, the why me situation gets even bigger.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I tried a lot. I tried meditation. I tried affirmations. I tried journaling. I tried everything. And it all worked in some form for me. Even if it was at that time, it worked for me. I don't meditate as much anymore.
Yeah.
But in that time, I was doing it for 6 months religiously, right? And at that time, whatever it was, it worked for me. So, it's also about putting in that effort. People think if you do something for 1-2 weeks, right? That
Instant
it's
results.
not. It's like it's 3 months minimum for anything that you try,
Yeah.
So, and I think that is something that I've learned as well. And just in general, being more confident in life. I think I was super insecure as a person and, would people please. And I don't know, I'm very different today than I was in high school and back when, in college as well. So I think that even changing in those ways helped me a lot with my my confidence helped me believe that I'm okay. I used to want to go to the hospital every time I had symptoms. And now when I get symptoms, I literally welcome them into my body and then I say goodbye when they go.
Like this is just the normalcy and I've accepted the normalcy that it is.
Exactly. This is it and it's okay, and like you said, like bad things or bad days, right? Like there's a saying that says, tomorrow will be a worse day if you let it be a worse day, So it's the same thing. You just have to keep working towards finding that better day. And people think that it happens automatically, but it happens only with effort.
That's true. But Jordan Peterson or Chris Williamson, one of the other, I think, or both said it together conjointly, is that say most people never change, right? Like change is the hardest part about a person when they're already preset in like their conditions, routines, mindsets, thinking, which all comes from, let's say, your own experiences, right?
Yeah.
What is the biggest catalyst for your change? Now, I say that because growing up, as you said, insecure, people pleaser, I was all of that and above. You said that you grew up in that sort of mindset as well. Your biggest catalyst of change was the experience that you had, amongst others. I'm sure there were others as well. Why do you think that causes people to change? And why do so many people search for change but don't know how to go about that change? Because people can look in the mirror and see like my biggest fear in life, so I'm just rambling now, but my biggest fear in life is I look into the mirror and I see a 90-year-old version of myself who's not proud of the life that I've lived.
Correct.
That is
yeah.
the biggest fear. How does one, if that is one's biggest fear, but they want to try and change but don't know how to go about that change, what advice would you give that person? And how does one change to begin with?
I think you have to start by paying attention to how you talk to yourself, and I think that is when you know that I need to change something. So again, like you said before, if I kept saying my life is so unfair, or I'm jealous that my friends are going to go home and sleep properly when I know I won't be able to sleep properly, right? But anything even like that, I was like, I don't want to have thoughts like this. I don't want to think like this. I just want to be happy, and I can't change the situation. So the only thing you can change is yourself when you can't change your situations, right? So, and how you react to things. And yeah, like you said, we are very stuck in our own patterns and our own loops and everything. But the only way to break a pattern and to break a loop is to change the way you respond to a situation. So focus on how you talk to yourself and focus on your responses. And if you can understand how you talk to yourself and force yourself to change your responses, you'll be able to get that thing of, oh, I do need to change X, Y, Z. Like more clarity will come to you.
I have a very interesting question there. Now, you and I were having off-camera conversation about relationships. My question to you is, when you're in a relationship, then you said you have to control yourself to your responses. But when you're in a relationship, you're in a heightened state of emotion, right?
Yeah.
How does one be more self-controlled in that specific situation when your feelings are at stake and there's also someone else's thought process at stake? How do you balance out the two when you're communicating?
Correct. And there's
and how does
quote.
influence take place? Yeah.
There's a quote, right? And it says, don't make permanent decisions over temporary feelings, right? So anything we feel, and I've said this in the past as well, that any emotion only stays with us for 90 seconds. That's a scientific fact, okay? And it's the story that we attach to that emotion is what stays with us longer. So let's say I'm sad because I had a fight with my boyfriend, right? If I'm sad, that can last 90 seconds, but I put in a story about he doesn't care about me enough,
ruminate.
Or he doesn't this thing. Yeah, so, but it's actually that sticks with me, that he doesn't care about me enough or this and that, right? It's not actually the sadness is long gone. It's only that thought that's with you. Anyway, but going back to that, like, so keeping this in mind, going back to the don't make permanent decisions with temporary feelings, I think it means for really small things like sending a text message, even using a certain tone of voice, and it's so hard to control in the moment, but the first step is awareness, right? So even if you do it and you apologize, that's the first step, right?
Yeah.
And then it's also with bigger decisions though, like, are you going to not take an opportunity because you're scared in that moment? If you turn it down, you've turned it down, it's gone forever, right? So it's all about like that time frame of how long is this feeling really going to last? And most of the time you see that it doesn't last as long as you think, and that's when you should make your decision, actually.
Like objectively, and not respond and not react kind of thing.
I mean, and practice the pause. You've heard about that,
yes,
right?
Of course.
So practicing the pause is key, but it's very hard to do in the moment. So my thing is always start with awareness, right? I'm also bad at this. I think at home, I yell at my mom and my brother since I've moved back from New York about everything, like sometimes, because I get so riled up without that privacy and independence that I'm used to living in the same house. But at the same time, I'm aware of it, and that's my first step now. And then I'm going to be able to not do those things. So it's all a process, and you just have to let it be. But knowing these things helps, right?
100%.
So
like I'm also very aware, like if I'm also coming back from work and I'm very, very stressed out after a long ass day, or if I'm coming home and I'm working, it's something I don't like to do because I like to finish off in the office. But there are days where you have to come home 9, 10, 11, you're working till late. And my mum is also working till really late because she's a lawyer herself. We're both stressed out. So if we're both in the same room, someone is going to combust. Which is, I think, something that I'm also aware of, that I've also inherited the tendency that when you're stressed out, you react and then not respond, versus when you're more chiller, the tone is also a lot chiller. But it's a hard thing to navigate in the moment because you get lost in the emotion or the stress or the adrenaline, or call it what you want, trying to finish off something.
Correct. And then even when you know the facts, right? Knowing is the first step. Then awareness in your actions is the second step. And then responding differently is the third step to break that pattern until your brain remembers that I don't do this anymore. Like, I don't react like this anymore.
Yeah.
And then soon it'll become your nature to do it. So, but that's how change happens. It's a lot to do with neuroplasticity and everything as well, right? You want to rewire how your brain thinks
Completely.
about things.
But is it a actual truth that the older they are, the harder it is to rewire them? Because it's often told that the younger you are, it's easier to pick up stuff, right?
Yeah.
Now, for example, I learned to play the guitar at 22. In COVID, I've self-taught
Correct, yeah.
online, picked it up and learned it. But if a kid who was 12 years old who was learning it, would learn it a lot quicker. Same thing with like languages. The older
Correct.
you get, the
Yeah.
harder it is to pick up. So then
Correct.
I can imagine mannerisms are the hardest to change.
For
Like
sure.
you have trying to coach like a parent or like someone who's older in that age bracket who've done
Yeah.
and seen things only in a certain way, but come to you for change. That I guess would be informational
hard.
awareness, but
Yeah.
trying to change their mannerisms would be really hard. So how
really
would you
hard,
go
yeah.
about that? Would it be the same process?
It is the same process, but it takes longer, right?
Yeah.
And that's normal though, because but then also you can find that one thing that they may think different or haven't thought about yet, and then make that their main thought, you know. So it's like right now their current thought is so thick, right? Pretend the like thing in your brain is so thick that it's so hard to thin out and then make a new one, right? But if you create a new one, you can at least start focusing on that new one and building the new one, you know. So finding different perspectives as well, finding different emotions, finding different ways of reacting. It's all about practicing this, you know. And so what I say is that like I like to, like what I try to give to my clients is their own personal toolkit of how to handle any situation, right?
Yeah.
And I think for everyone that personal toolkit looks so different because we are all different people. So that is something that I think is different for everyone, the toolkit, you know. And that may be different ways of reacting, different ways of understanding your emotions. Some people love journaling, some people like affirmation, some people don't know that they can even do it until the
Yeah.
situation comes their
Yeah,
way, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So but it's like once you talk about the tools and you learn the techniques, you know it.
But do you
know?
communicate to men and women differently then?
No, I think it's similar. It depends on the topic. I think when it comes to relationships, when it comes to career, sometimes the conversations are different, but it's the same thing at the end of the day. All
Yeah.
our brains are the same, you
Yeah.
know. So we just have to understand the basic concepts, I think. And it's not that again I'm a pro in all of it, right? I learn a lot from my clients as well, and then I do
100%.
my homework and then I go back.
100%.
You know, so and I'm also a work in progress in all of these things. Everything I
100%.
preach, like on Instagram, even is things I'm personally working on myself. And
100%.
so it's all like, we keep learning.
But something from gauging from your conversation is you get very emotionally invested with your clients and wanting to see that progress and change.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine just
Yeah.
I think on Friday, where she's a therapist herself. And I asked her the same question, whether that emotional sort of release from her client wears her down in any shape or form. And she told me that it didn't, because she's learned to train herself outside of that.
Correct. Yeah.
But as a life coach, where I guess your USP is that you are emotionally invested in seeing that progress, because you are giving an opinion and you want to see that change and see whether that output matches the opinion you give, you are
Yeah.
a little more accessible than a therapist who gives you that block sense of time.
Correct.
How do you think that has impacted your like emotional well-being as well by being as emotionally invested with your client? And how do you manage to
Honestly,
moderate that?
Yeah, so I've become really good at compartmentalization, you know, so I can just turn off like other people's emotions that I'm involved in, I guess. I turn it off, you know. I don't really deal with it when I'm not in that moment or working or texting them or talking to them on the phone or something like that, you know. So when I'm there, I'm 100% present, but when I'm out of it, I don't think about it at all. I think about myself and my friends, my family, my life, you know. I have other people's emotions apart from clients as
Of
well that
course,
I
yeah.
care about and manage, and my own then, right? So I think it's it takes time though. Like, of course, there are days where I feel like I need to be better with my own boundaries and I need to, you know, maybe take a day off every now and then, and you know, or not text from the hours of here to there, just leave my phone in general, right? Because I need that emotional overload to just go down.
Yeah.
But so far, like I guess I have seen the results and I feel happy about that, and I'm still in the growth stage of my career. So I'm just gonna keep going, and things have gotten figured out on their own, so I'm sure this will get figured out itself. You know, I have that
Yeah.
attitude about things that I'm very much a surrender, and it will come to you.
But do you see yourself as a life, like, do you find it incredibly scalable in India today? How do you feel like the industry or the niche that you're in within the industry growing? And how does that look like for you from a scalability standpoint?
That's a good question, because obviously the number of clients is limited, right? So it would maybe be in branching out to do workshops or corporate coaching services, workshops in different companies and things like that, or hosting events now. There are so many, at least our city has so many events now that you can go to on the weekends and do different things. So I think there's a whole other vertical to it in that aspect. But with the coaching, there isn't really scalability after a certain number of clients, I feel, unless you choose different verticals to go into.
Okay, so
it'll be a long run goal for me. Right now I'm happy, and if I look back from a year how much I've grown, I'm really happy with it, and I'm not chasing that result so much. I'm chasing the feeling of each day for now.
But have you seen common patterns amongst your clients so far, people coming to you with
For
problems?
sure.
What are some of the
For
common
sure.
patterns that you find?
There is a lot of overthinking,
Okay.
lot. There's a lot of unable to be alone, like fearing alone time or dependency is one thing. There is a lot of confidence, not feeling confident in making decisions, or not feeling confident with almost anything, so lack of self-love then, because all of that ties together. There is a lot of thinking about the past and not thinking about the future. So these are the themes, right? And everyone has their situations in these themes, and we all do, right? I think I do as well.
Completely.
So, yeah.
And how much of that is like professional? How much of that is like personal, relationship, family dynamics into that buckets? Do you find it to be like an even split, or a lot more on the personal side?
A lot more on the personal side, I think, and not even to do with other people. It's to do with yourself, actually, because again, anything you feel with a family member, anything you feel with a partner, it mostly starts with you. A lot of the things start with you. So, and if it doesn't start with you, it starts with the way you communicate with them. So
we never taught how to communicate growing up, though. It's like, and something I've seen amongst my parents' generations and beyond that, that was just always the set norm. In like the way you say things, you don't really think that was the way society worked. When now the nuance in communication is so much more than it ever was before.
Correct.
But as kids, or even in school, like in cathedral or whatever, growing up, no one ever taught us learning how to feel, learning how to communicate, learning how to sit with yourself. What does security look like? What does being like rigid and stubborn also look like?
Correct,
Because you need resilience, you need grit. What does that look like? I feel like that's very lacking today, because those are the character traits that build a person.
Yeah.
Right? And then they are the building blocks for everything that you've said, but no one's ever taught us any of those.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think they do it now more in schools, so at least it's happening, right?
Yeah.
But it's very complicated, because again, and a lot of people actually are unpacking what they've been through in their childhood and college and school and everything in their early 20s. Like, this is the time where we all unpack things, like whether family, seeing lots of disease as a young person, all of that I'm like unpacking today, literally. So it's really, there does come a time where I think it hits you that it is a time to do something about it. And again, like I always believe that even if someone doesn't feel like they need anything, you still do, I feel like the biggest issue also is if you don't look at yourself and think I need to change something,
But that's linked to something else. Let's talk relationships, because I know you post a good amount of content about like how to heal relationships, whether it's with your significant other, whether it's with family, whether it's with friends, whether it's with your relationship with yourself. A lot of people, or society, or in India specifically, you pedestalize being in a relationship with another person more than having that sense of self-love. Like, if you hit a certain age and you are still single, frowned upon. In a sense, like, oh, you're still single at like 28, or like, and for a woman that's lower than the threshold for a man.
100%.
But that I perceive from the outside looking in, find quite dangerous. What is your opinion on that sort of mindset? And what if someone is then feeling that pressure, and that pressure allows them to settle? Because societally they're being told at a certain age they need to be in a relationship, but everyone's journey about life is different.
100%.
Yes.
I mean, but that's where that that confidence from within has to come out and be like, I am not going to get into this when I'm not ready to get into this, or I'm not going to put in the effort to find someone right now because I don't want to find someone right now. I have other priorities, right? I think that, and you have to blow out the noise. With everything in life, you have to blow out noise, right? Noise is what, like other opinions, different mindsets that don't agree with you in that moment, and if you learn how to blow out the noise, none of this is an issue at all.
Yeah,
It's
but
really
it's so hard to do though.
is
Now,
hard.
like
It
like
is very hard.
what would now let's say coach me right now. I'll give you like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I find it sometimes very hard. I've grown up being a people pleaser. Public perception, in a way, though I've worked really hard for it not to matter to me as much, at some level it still does.
Yeah.
What is the process that you think I need to go through to blow out the noise?
I think that we'll have to dig deeper into how you feel about yourself first, because a lot of the reasons you're seeking that validation or that feeling of, oh, I need to accomplish this so it can be known, right, in public, is to do with the way you perceive yourself mainly, right? Because if you perceived yourself in a way where I know I'm great, like I know what I've done is awesome, you won't need that from the outside, and trust me, their opinions won't matter to you either. Like, look at me, okay? I'm 28. Like, I took 2 years off work, okay? I was dealing with the health stuff, and I feel like I'm so behind in my career compared to people around me. But I know what I do every day, right? I know the connections I've made, the people I've helped. I know it deep down, So nothing anyone says on the outside even comes into my like this circle
bubble
around
that you've
me.
created
Yeah,
around yourself too.
and that bubble is of self-love, right? So I think the main crux of your thing would be, how do I actually feel about myself? Because you can tell me that, I think I'm successful, I think I'm ambitious and everything, but those are just adjectives, they're not the actual crux of the matter that we would go into. So that would be where I start with you, and we'll find out a lot actually.
Interesting. That's very interesting to think that it's linked to something else completely entirely, but it's projecting and showing itself here.
Yeah.
But you see, like in relationships specifically, that must be happening a lot. Like communication, I'm projecting there to be something versus what I'm actually trying to say are two very different things. What are some of the relationship issues do you think that come about? Have you seen like a common set of themes that just keep coming between couples?
Lots of miscommunication, time, when people don't have enough time for the other person, just in general, how they handle a situation, the expectations is of the biggest one. And I think boundaries also, you are expected to have a certain number of boundaries in a relationship, which is less, right? But actually you should have boundaries in a relationship, So I think that there's a lot to it, but those are the main topics, I guess. And it's just honestly just letting the person be themselves, and you have to be yourself, and you'll have to find a way to just be on the same wavelength that way, because if you try to change someone, or if you have an expectation that other person cannot meet, I think it's on you to look at that expectation as well. Like, I'm not saying like, oh, you have to call me every day is an expectation. Fine, that's a fair expectation, right? But you have to meet me after X time, or you have to, like I have to come somewhere. I don't know, basically the expectations. I don't know how to give examples, but it happens a lot. And I think in the past, I've been so insecure in general that I had none of this. I had no knowledge of all of this. And I think that when I found like someone who is such a good influence on me, who's taught me how to see the bigger picture, who's really taught me some of these things as well. And I feel so much more relaxed now and at ease. And I also think independence is a big one, because if you're not independent, you are going to be dependent on that person. And then they are going to slowly get annoyed about that.
I'm with you fully. Like, I understand what you're saying firsthand. But then what's your opinion on sunk cost fallacy in relationships? Like when do you think someone should take that difficult decision to get out of a relationship? Because often people stay in situations and relationships for longer than is good for them because they're afraid of what the uncertainty looks like.
For sure. But I think that again, like we think a lot about other people's actions in that, oh, they did this, so I should be out of the relationship, or that, whatever, right? When actually you should look inward again, and how does this make me feel despite what this despite the situation going on, how do I still feel in this relationship? Do I still want to be with this person? So for example, even I'm in a long distance relationship, and the end date for our long distance keeps getting pushed because just life, right? It's fine, but I can be like, oh, like it's never ending, I don't want to be in this anymore, but I know how I feel in the relationship, right? Like what it gives me is way more than what this takes away, right?
Yeah.
So that gives you your answer then of whether you should stay or not.
I've never thought of it like that. That's great.
Yeah,
It's
for
very,
sure.
very interesting. I would
100%.
always think of it subconsciously in the sense, like in that moment, like what is that I'm feeling, rather than how does that actually make me feel?
Yeah.
Which is long term, I guess, far more
Long-term
beneficial.
thinking.
Yeah,
For
long term
sure,
thinking.
100%. I mean, in the moment, I can be like, I don't want to be with you anymore when we don't have an end to long distance, right? But what if, like, I give it a few months? Everything will fall into place, right? I'll get more answers, I'll get more clarity.
Because every
I'll,
feeling only lasts
like,
for 90 seconds.
Yeah, technically.
Yeah,
Emotion,
exactly.
yeah. So yeah, it's interesting, like to see how
that
manage,
projections work. You also said that you've worked with lawyers before specifically, or people with those high stress jobs, right?
High stress jobs, yeah.
What is the sum of the, or like the long hour jobs where, now let's say because I work really long hours, the amount of time I have to spend with people I want to spend time with is obviously truncated. And you can't even spend that quality time because your mind is not, the amount of plans I have
100%,
to
yeah.
cancel and not show up for. There's a bachelor party right now that I couldn't go for because of work. So how does one manage that? Is it just acceptance?
Yeah,
Like there's so many people
100%.
in our age group who are grinding right now, trying
Yeah.
to pursue what they want, and because of that, their boundaries
Yeah.
are set.
And I think it's the abundance mindset also. Two things about that if someone else has it, right, you should be happy for them and think that it's still going to come to me when the time is right for me, right? Not to be unhappy if someone has. And the second one is to believe that it will come to me in abundance too, It's just not the time it's going to come to me right now. So it's not that you're not going to go for bachelor trips in the future. It's not that you're not going to be able to have the time to give to people, right? But in your current moment, you've also made choices in your career that are such, right?
Yeah.
So it's your decision that is the case, but I don't think it's a problem, right? And whoever you surround yourself with should respect and understand that is your situation.
Exactly.
That's
It's the
all.
conflict and thought process that
Yeah.
causes a lot of pain, I think.
100%.
Right.
But that abundance mindset helps a lot, because when you're actually happy for everything else and happy for yourself, right? Knowing that it'll come to you in the future, then you're fine, right?
Everything falls into place.
Everything falls in. It always does fall into place. Like that is something we don't really believe, because in the moment it feels so awful, but really everything falls into place.
So throughout your whole journey with your health care and everything, what was like the best piece of advice you received?
The best piece of advice I received was honestly a little bit of tough love. I think that I could be crying all the time, right? In the morning, I would wake up and yell at my family because I was like, life is so unfair, why this and everything. And I think they were just like, this is it now, you just need to find a way. So I think find a way is a really good advice to
Like solution
receive,
oriented approach.
yeah, or just, you just have to find a way always, because and there is always a way. I think that is also another thing to remember, that there is always a way, and it's up to you to find it.
It's up to you to find it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so true.
That's what
So
I
I'm
believe,
gonna
yeah.
end with like a quick rapid fire of questions that I have like thought of. Like you just have to give me an immediate answer
Oh, God,
that you
okay.
can think of. Have you ever given a piece of advice that you were not proud of?
I'm sure, yes.
100%?
Yeah.
How many have, like, what were the thoughts that came to your mind when you wanted to quit in your journey of healing?
In my journey of healing,
Yeah.
the thoughts that came to my mind were honestly that I need to do this for myself and everyone else around me, because the way I was not benefiting the people I loved the most, and that's what kept me going.
Interesting. So it wasn't about you, it was the people who loved
Me
you.
also,
Yeah.
for sure, but the people who love me, my family and Rian mainly.
Yeah, of course, yeah. What are some of the things that make a long distance relationship work?
Honestly, independence. It's the main one. It's having fixed timings to talk to each other, being able to be happy for that person and their life, really. It's being able to be happy that they are there, they're living their life. It does not mean they don't love you. Nothing means they don't love you, okay? That is something you should just get out of your head. And in general, having the next time you meet fixed always helps, just to
Yeah.
have that something to look forward to. And those are the key things, honestly. It's pretty simple when you break it down and look at it. It's, I think, controlling your thoughts then is up to you. It's not up to the other person.
Okay, that's lovely. That's
know?
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And finally, if someone is going through what you went through in a similar health situation or
Yeah.
crisis, or it could be an ACL injury and they're out for 8
Yeah,
months or something,
yeah.
anything more with a health crisis. What is that piece of advice with your experience? What would you tell them who's watching? Because the idea is to just
Yeah.
benefit even one person watching this. That's all.
I tell them to believe in yourself, believe that this is not going to, make you, it's not going to set you back as much as you think. It's not going to make you weak as much as you think. I think that as long as you talk to yourself with kindness, and know that, yes, this is the situation, accept it, and then kindness on top of that. So acceptance plus kindness is the way out of a situation like that. But if you talk to yourself with self-pity, you're going to always be stuck in that rut and not want to get out. And it's not that it's only health, right? Everyone has situations that they deal with that are tough, and we all know that. So I think that is something to just always be kind to yourself as well.
That's the overarching piece of advice I've heard most people come on say.
Yeah.
Just to be kind to yourself.
100%.
Glass half
and
full.
self-love, right?
Yeah, and glass half full. So I always end the shoot with a question for the next guest. So what question would you leave for the next guest?
On what is your favorite part about your routine?
Perfect.
Okay.
Cool. So that's a wrap.
Thanks.
Thank you.